You're listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. Now back to the show with your host, Lisa.
Hello and good morning. If you are listening to this in the morning, I'm Lisa Lightner, and yes, I'm back with a new podcast episode. You all are killing me with the podcasts. First, I record episode after episode after episode, and nothing, and then it never fails whenever I shelf the podcast or terminate it, pause it, whatever you want to call it. It gets more downloads than when I'm actively podcasting. And then I think, well, geez, if there's this many people downloading the podcasts when I'm not active, maybe I should get active again. So that's what I'm trying to do. Plus, I just have so much great energy and information and enthusiasm right now that I'm really looking forward to 2025, believe it or not. And I thought, I don't have to do the full-blown podcast with videos. And I used to have a podcast manager, and she would make these little snippets, and we'd put them on Instagram Reels and YouTube and all this other stuff. I'm just going to keep it basic. It's just going to be an audio podcast. More often than not, there will not be an accompanying video to go with it. So do not expect that. But yeah, I think that I'm going to aim to publish one new episode a week. And then since I already have hundreds of episodes dating back to 2019, I will be republishing an older episode once a week as well. But I don't want you to be put off by the older episodes, even if they're from 2019, because I won't put any pandemic episodes up because those aren't timely anymore. But as you know, a lot of IEP information is timeless, and the issues happen again and again and again. And we haven't had a reauthorization of IDEA in over 20 years. So nothing has changed there to warrant the information not being valid anymore. All of the information is still valid. Sometimes my opinions change over the years as I get more experience and more perspective. But for the most part, all of that stuff is still going to be valid. So, welcome to the Don't IEP Alone podcast. It is December 2025, heading into the final weeks of it's December 2024, heading into 2025. It's the final few weeks here. And I have a lot of great stuff going on right now. We just completed a few days ago the Black Friday and Cyber Monday promotion on my online training. I'm sorry if you missed that. Registration is now closed. It will be open again. I don't know. I've had people ask me to open it up on January 1st and 2nd. I don't know that I'm going to do that. Our next live sessions start on the 9th. So anything that I would do if I open it up before then, it would be before the 9th so that you could join us on the 9th for that first live session. I have a lot of great speakers lined up. I have an attorney who's going to talk to us about divorce and custody issues and IEPs. I have another attorney from Texas who does a lot of systems advocacy and government lobbying and things like that. So we'll be talking with him about tackling systemic issues. Who else did I get? Oh, I have a neuropsych coming about, she's just going to talk to us about, hey, if you get a neuropsych, this is what you should expect, and this is what a good neuropsych tells you, and this is what it looks like, and this is what you should expect for your client or your child during the process, and so on and so on. And I also, our first guest speaker is in January, and it's attorney, and she's going to be doing a little mini training on negotiation skills. So that will be exciting to hear from an attorney's point of view. First, though, before I get into a little bit about today's episode, I want to make a fun announcement. Of course, we just had a pretty big election a month ago, 6 weeks ago, whatever. And the results were not what I was certainly hoping for. I know many people are pleased. I'm not one of them. Not only was the winner for president not my choice, and if I'm being honest, I don't even think he's a good person. Just good people don't say and do those things. So I don't know how else to put it. I wouldn't stand for it if somebody said that to me in my own home. I wouldn't stand for it if my kids were talking to me like that. I wouldn't stand for it if in the workplace, if a coworker or someone, one of my employees said that to me. I would not stand for it for some of the things he says and does. So, I just don't know what else to say. Regardless of how you feel about all the policies and ideas and immigration and all these other things, to me, it's not. Character matters. Character counts as far as I'm concerned. And, that's all I can say about that. But I've heard from a lot of you in the days and weeks right after the election, and a lot of concerns. And I know a lot of you know that I've done quite a bit of political lobbying. And so there was a lot of, well, what can we do? And, they claim that they're going to do away with the U.S. Department of Education, cut Medicaid, cut Medicare, cut Social Security, which many of our adult children rely on, and so on and so on. It was all this stuff like, what can we do? And I, too, was upset in the days after the election. And so then I thought, I'm going to turn my anxiety into action. And so with that, I have created this little group, idea, platform, program, movement, whatever you want to call it. I am going to use my website and my social media accounts and my email list and my collective following to, and my lobbying experience. Let me say that too. I've been trained by some of the best lobbyists in the country. I'm going to use what collective reach I have to parents and families like mine. And we're going to work hard in the coming years at lobbying and action and activity for our kids. I'm going to call this group or movement. It's called Stepping Up for Disabled Kids. The Stepping Up piece is pretty self-explanatory because I'm asking all of my podcast listeners, blog readers, email subscribers, Facebook page followers, Instagram followers, YouTube followers. I'm asking all of you to please step up for our disabled kids. And then the other thing, of course, is that it's stepping up fits in nicely with A Day in Our Shoes, because we are always asking people to consider what it's like to spend a day in our shoes. But now we're going to take those shoes and we are going to step up. So it's Stepping Up for Disabled Kids. It's going to be powered by A Day in Our Shoes. On my website, I'm going to have a hub of action items and information of pending legislation, pending like secretary, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's not just the secretaries, but the cabinet and the people that the president gets to appoint or nominate. I'm going to have, information hubs on those folks. And now, mind you, like, this is going to be related to disabilities. So it's going to be healthcare, it's going to be education, civil rights, things like that. Yes, you can certainly always make the argument that finance and commerce and the military and all these other things that they affect our kids as well, because we are all connected. But, we kind of have to stay in our lane, and we can't do all the things all the time. So I think if we focus basically on civil rights, healthcare, and education, those are the three biggies that affect our kids. And I know a lot of you are worried about ACA, and I am too. But, these are the things that we're going to be working on. The other thing is that I'm not going to have a Facebook page for this, but I will have a Facebook group for this. The name of the group is going to be Stepping Up for Disabled Kids. You can look for it. By the time this episode is published, I will get it up and running with rules and all that. This is not the group to ask your personal IEP and 504 questions. If you want to ask those questions, you go to forums.adayinourshoes.com. Every question there is answered by an advocate. That will remain the place to get your individual IEP and 504 advice. The Facebook group is just going to be about legislative action items, alerts, and things like that. I should also say that we know, ideally, disability rights and all these things that affect our kids should be nonpartisan, but that's just not the reality anymore. And the reality is that most of these issues have become left-leaning issues. So if that's going to bother you, then this probably isn't the group for you. There's just some issues and solutions that are proposed that we just know would hurt disabled kids and their livelihoods. So, I'm not saying that conservatives aren't welcome. You certainly are. But if that is, if that's going to bother you to be in a left-leaning group and hear left-leaning opinions, because that's just where we are. Most of the proposed solutions for disability rights tend to lean progressive. So I'm always going to encourage open-minded, respectful discussions, but we're going to keep our focus on driving change for our kids. So again, that's Stepping Up for Disabled Kids. You can look for it on Facebook. I don't know if I'm going to create an Instagram account for it or not. Probably not. Should I or shouldn't I? I didn't even think about that. But again, you will find a lot of information in the coming weeks. We can't really do anything yet. We still have a good 6 weeks or so until Inauguration Day. So we can kind of get our ducks in a row and get mentally prepared, mentally committed to doing this. And then next year we will hit the ground running. Another announcement that I have, I told you about the training. Told you about the new political action group. I am putting together, I have had the IEP toolkit, and if you want information on it, any of this stuff, it'll be in the show notes. But I've had the IEP toolkit now since 2015. Wow, 10 years. How about that? That's pretty exciting. Many times over the years, people ask, oh, this is so great. Do you have one for teachers? And finally put one together for teachers a couple of years ago. So that's also available. Recently, I've been getting a lot of inquiries about, do you have anything like this for 504s? And I never did. But I'm going to put together a little 504 kit just to help parents. The process isn't exactly the same. Your rights aren't the same. You're not even guaranteed a meeting, and you're not even guaranteed parent participation. It's very, very different. But I think that there's still some information that is lacking from parents. One of those bits of information just being that parents often expect the same rights and processes as IEPs, and that is not the case. So I'm going to put together a 504 toolkit. I have it sketched out. I just have to kind of build it. And that will be happening in early 2025. So that's coming. And what else? I feel like I had one more announcement and I can't think of it. Right. How could I forget this? Was it last year or the year before? I was contacted by Jossey-Bass Publishers. They are a publishing outfit. They are actually an offshoot of Wiley. If you've ever heard of Wiley books, if you look them up, Wiley has a ton of education materials. It tends to be kind of like a lot of clinical type stuff. And Jossey-Bass is their little offshoot where it's informative stuff and informative publications, but it's a little bit more parent leaning and less formal, less clinical. Anyway, I am writing a book for them. I am just putting the final touches on my chapters. And then next year we begin the editing process, and look for that in back to school time. 2025 is when that book will be coming out, which is pretty exciting for me. So I hope that you all are excited about it too. So let me just add with one more tip before I sign off. And that is, since we are heading into the holiday season, don't forget to collect data on your kid if you need to. And this doesn't have to be formal. I don't expect you during the holiday break to be sitting down with your kid and doing seat work and discrete trials and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be formal. You can just take notes on what you're observing. So when you're at family events, social gatherings, however your child is interacting with their cousins, how they're interacting with their siblings, how they're interacting with their friends or the neighbor's kids or whoever's at your house or whoever's house you're at. You know, if you want to document some social skills stuff, if you want to document taking turns and how well they're doing that, are they good at sequencing? Are they good at requesting what they need? Are they good at self-advocacy? Or are they letting the other kids just push them around? Any of those things. How are they doing with changes in routine? A lot of this, we all have a lot of routine changes during holidays. Sleep schedule, food schedules, types of food, where we go, what we do, it all changes. How are they doing with those transitions and those schedule changes and that lack of routine? So don't forget to document some of these things so that when you do have your IEP meeting, if you have it, winter or spring, you have some of this information. The same goes for those first few weeks in January, and I will do an episode early in January on this. It'll be probably that very first week of January. I'll talk about this. You want to be documenting when it is time on January 2nd, 3rd, or I think it's the 6th, something like that. When it's time for them to go back to school and get back into that routine, what is that looking like? Is that a nightmare? Is it difficult to get back into the routine? Or is it easy for them? Are they anxious to get back in the routine? Is school refusal ramping back up? How long is it going to take your child to recoup those skills? The skills, take your baselines now. On December 20th or 21st, you want to take those baselines of what your child can do now successfully. And again, just jot this down in a notebook. It doesn't have to be formal. If you ask them to read a page or a Christmas card or a Christmas story or whatever it is, can they do that? And then you want to gather that information again in January and see where they're at after having a 2 or 3 week break, whatever it is that some kids get. So just keep it at the forefront of your mind. Again, use an app. If you have a voice recording app on your phone, you can just document it quickly, or a note-taking app on your phone. Just document it quickly while you're seeing it happen. And then you'll have the information when you're having those IEP meetings, when you're having ESY discussions, and so on. You have your observation data. So enjoy the rest of your day, please. I'm very excited about where 2025 is going to take us. I really do believe if we band together, and step up, we really can create change for our kids. Lobbying and citizen lobbying, it really works. one parent's voice can have so much more impact on a legislator than a political action group or a petition or a viral video. When they hear from constituents, trust me, it matters. It really does matter because we have to vote for them and they want your vote. Okay? So have a great day, and I will talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. We're so glad you've joined us and would love to connect with you outside of the show. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. From self-care tips to common IEP mistakes, there's even more to explore. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast and subscribe to never miss an episode. Until next time, don't IEP alone. And you don't have to.